Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here is your detailed weather forecast for January 14th, 2024. A very detailed forecast update coming your way today. We're going to be talking about that severe tropical cyclone on the forecast for Western Australia, heavy rainfall and thunderstorms expected across the southeast of Queensland, and the potential for some intense rainfall across the east coast of New South Wales. We'll be talking about the heavy falls possible up in the northern parts of Queensland and the Northern Territory as well. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please do consider subscribing, but let's get stuck straight into things today. Over in Queensland, I'm going to keep the eastern states short and sweet. I'm going to be giving a lot of detail today over in the west on that tropical cyclone towards the end of this video, so stick around throughout the entire video for that. Southeast of Queensland, nothing too interesting expected throughout the course of today, so we're just going to completely skip over today. In terms of the weather forecast for Queensland just in general, there will be some good thunderstorms around Mackay and Rockhampton area later on this afternoon, and we could be seeing a couple of severe ones there, especially inland out towards Billawheeler. New South Wales as well looking pretty dry as well throughout the course of today until you get much further down into the state. Around the Dubbo and Orange area, a couple of thunderstorms possible there, and then down further between Orange and Canberra, a couple of good thunderstorms also possible in that area too, but keeping it on the southeastern corners of Queensland and into the northeastern corners of New South Wales, the potential for a good thunderstorm outbreak tomorrow afternoon and evening. We'll likely see an outbreak of potentially severe thunderstorms around the Emerald and Rolleston area. We'll also likely see a good outbreak of thunderstorms, with some having the potential to go severe warned between Edderswold, Kingaroy, Toowoomba, Warwick, and then down towards Wollongara on the Queensland-New South Wales border. The chance of severe thunderstorms into the Toowoomba and Brisbane area as well, they're not looking overly likely at this time, but we will certainly still see the chance of some good thunderstorms in this area, and you can see on the convective forecast models some pretty powerful cells expected around the Toowoomba area, extending inland towards Goondiwindi, and then a bunch of pretty healthy storm cells also expected to materialise on the radar from about 3 or 4 p.m. onwards tomorrow afternoon, and further into the central areas of Queensland outside of Rolleston and Billawheeler, Rockhampton, Ogmore, Dingo, Emerald, and then up towards Claremont, Moranbah, Glendon, and even as far north as Mackay and Bowen as well. You can't really see it on this forecast run here, but the North Queensland convective forecast model suggesting some good thunderstorms as well, extending about as far north as Mackay, and then those good thunderstorms also apparent in the far northern areas of Queensland, but I'll get to that later on in the forecast update. Pushing the forecast forward throughout the remainder of this week, some good thunderstorms also possible into the immediate southeastern corners of Queensland on Thursday afternoon and evening. We definitely do have the chance of some isolated heavy falls there as well. It is going to be a hot one on Thursday as well. Brisbane expecting a top of 34 degrees and a humid one at that, so plenty of thunderstorms to go around, plenty of convective energy as well in the atmosphere, and you can see that here on the convective available potential energy side of things. These Cape values up to 5,000 joules per kilogram of available oxygen for these thunderstorms. Those are huge values, even for the southeast of Queensland. Monstrous numbers here, about 2.5 times the maximum that you see for gnarly severe thunderstorm outbreaks. So I expect a very healthy thunderstorm outbreak to happen on Thursday. Plenty of severe thunderstorms just concentrated on the coastal stretch adjacent to the hills in the southeastern corners of Queensland. I reckon there'll be thunderstorms about as far north as Maroochydore, just in this pocket here. So I cannot wait to see what the convective models have to say about Thursday. We'll find out tomorrow. So more information on this gnarly severe thunderstorm outbreak tomorrow, but I am expecting some good thunderstorms. I mean, they're basically guaranteed at this stage on Thursday, just given this setup here. Like I said, humidity value is going to be through the roof. Brisbane a top of 34 with humidity values up to, I believe, 70% in the metro area, whilst that temperature is maxing out during the day. So that is going to be an uncomfortable top, that's for sure. 50 to 70% humidity values, temperature as well sky high, and a beautiful dry line as well. This is going to be a premium day for severe thunderstorms to fire up on Thursday, and I cannot stress that strongly enough. Friday will be a lot calmer, thunderstorms around the Rockhampton and into the central Queensland area, but they will be few and far between, and then Saturday it looks like the showers take over. And speaking of showers, let's talk about those right now. I'll just pull the forecast back briefly, but I'm going to include southeast Queensland in this as well, so stick around just for a minute, bear with me while I talk about the next couple of days for New South Wales. You can see thunderstorms expected tonight, extending between a line inland from Dubbo down to Orange, down to about Canberra actually. Thunderstorms also expected into the immediate southern parts of New South Wales around the Albury area, Albury-Wodonga on Wednesday afternoon. Good thunderstorms as well, extending later on to the afternoon as far north as about Dubbo and Orange, and a great outbreak expected around Canberra and that area as well. And you can see on the convective forecast models tomorrow afternoon and evening some really gnarly thunderstorms expected to pop up right over the eastern rim of New South Wales, especially into the eastern parts of Victoria around the Gippsland region. Certainly some severe thunderstorms expected tomorrow afternoon, and some good thunderstorms also expected around the Captain's Flat area, extending north up towards Lithgow and Bathurst. They will make it into the Penrith and the Sydney area later on tomorrow afternoon into late tomorrow evening by the looks of things, actually, for Sydney and Wollongong. So some good thunderstorms expected out there, and then plenty of pulse thunderstorms turning supercellular later on in the afternoon around the Tamworth, Armidale, Glen Innes, and extending as far north up towards the Wollongara area as well. Warm days, it's going to be very warm indeed, good humidity as well, and again, good convective available potential energy across much of New South Wales is what's going to be giving way to these severe thunderstorms. Plenty of energy in the atmosphere. Again, a really gnarly thunderstorm outbreak expected tomorrow afternoon and evening. Now, the low pressure system driving this is going to get itself jammed up in the Tasman Sea here, jammed up between multiple other low pressure systems and a high pressure ridge down in the Tasman Sea. And this is what's going to give way to the next weather event that's going to impact New South Wales and Queensland with heavy rainfall. This is a new thing on the forecast as well, so take this with a heavy pinch of salt, but we will likely see a low pressure system develop somewhere between Lord Howe Island and New South Wales throughout Thursday evening and Friday morning. Now, this low pressure system will then rapidly deepen down to about 995 millibars. It's going to behave a lot like an east coast low, actually, with some very strong winds ripping around from the southern side of this system here and funneling a bunch of moisture, which will then pick up on Friday morning across the eastern seaboard of New South Wales, north from Wollongong through Sydney, Newcastle, Forster, Taree, Kempsey, and up to about Coffs Harbour. And they're going to be inundated with coastal showers, which will be heavy at times, and coupled with some strong winds as well. You can see winds sustained at about 40 knots, gusting up to about 50, 55, even up towards 60 knots through here. So this is going to have cyclonic force winds. A powerful east coast low is expected to materialize if this does hold up on the forecast. Now, considering that this is a new addition to the forecast, there are some pretty big discrepancies between forecast models. You can see the GFS still calling for that low pressure system to materialize, but it's calling for it to be much closer to the coastline, thus being much weaker, but still some good rainfall is expected along the New South Wales coastline, but it will be a lot further south. The Axis forecast model as well, which sometimes I deem to be quite reliable on a situation like this, is also going to have that low pressure system much closer to the coastline, but similar wind speeds to what the EastMF is expecting, and the rainfall's also going to be in a similar position, which tells me that a mix of the Axis G3 and the EastMF forecast model is what's going to materialise here. Regardless of what actually happens, I do expect heavy falls to materialise between Wollongong and Taree. Sydney will likely get some good falls as well, up to about 40 millimetres on Friday, and probably a further 20 millimetres on both Saturday and Sunday as well. This low pressure system will head steadily further north throughout Friday evening. Saturday morning it will be offshore from about Coffs Harbour. Saturday afternoon it will be offshore from about Lismore, and then Sunday it begins to pull further away from New South Wales. The heavy showers do continue right through Sunday until late Sunday night, and then they begin to ease off Monday morning, but then they really pipe up again as this low pressure system kind of makes a bit of a resurgence as per the EastMF forecast here. But you can see between other forecast models that kind of isn't on the forecast here. So what's happening after Sunday does look to be a lot more uncertain, and there's a lot more discrepancies between the forecast models about it. So take this forecast with a very heavy pinch of salt, and from about Monday onwards this forecast is very unreliable, but some very heavy falls expected between Newcastle and Coffs Harbour, expected at least per this forecast here, and this is sort of rainfall where we would see 200 millimetres happen in a 24-hour period. Now, the reason I'm not concerned about this in any way, shape or form is that it is very unlikely to happen at this time, especially considering the other forecast models now aren't on board with rainfall continuing at least in a heavy fashion beyond about Sunday, and it looks like the rainfall will completely pipe down by Sunday night anyways, just given the circumstances with this system. Like, it is a strong east coast low, and it's certainly going to pack some strong winds, but it isn't going to be strong enough to sustain itself for about 4 or 5 days, but it does take the EastMF till late Tuesday night to kind of pipe down the rainfall here and completely kill it off. So it'll be interesting to see what actually happens here on the forecast. I do expect heavy falls between the Ulladulla through Wollongong, Sydney and Newcastle, and about as far north as about Kempsey through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday moderate to heavy falls possible between Newcastle and Coffs Harbour, and they could really be quite heavy around the Barrington Tops and inland towards Muswellbrook, and as such we could be seeing some flash flooding in those locations, especially considering they have had some heavy rainfall over the last couple of weeks as well. Let's just take a look at those rainfall accumulations. We're just going to do it for a week straight, just for fun's sake here. You can see peak rainfall accumulations, even with the EastMF's absolutely absurd rainfall accumulation number here. They are a little bit crazy, up to about 500 millimetres. I do think that that's kind of a bit of a bogus forecast this time. I'd be much more inclined to follow the Axis G3's forecast here, where up to about 120 to 140 millimetres looks possible between Newcastle and Sydney. The heaviest falls should be out towards the Barrington Tops. You can see peak rainfall accumulations there. Inland out towards Salisbury up to about 200 millimetres. That's a very valid forecast and a good number to put on it. And then once again, heavy falls expected inland from Yamba and Lismore. These places do typically receive some very heavy falls, and especially considering the showers and the nature of the showers that could come through here, up to about 300 300 millimeters is possible. Again, I do believe 300 millimeters to be a little bit bullish up into the far northeastern corners of New South Wales. The southeast of Queensland is probably going to dodge the majority of the rainfall, all things considered. Some good falls do look possible along the border around the Gold Coast area late on Saturday night through Sunday morning, but again, we're going to have to wait and see on what actually is expected there with the forecast models. There's still a little bit too much uncertainty, but at this time I would be taking an eclectic mix of the Eastern WF and the Axis G3 forecast at this time. I think the GFS is just a little bit too high on the boogies at this time to kind of give a proper forecast right now. And I think the Eastern WF rainfall forecast out till Sunday midnight is a perfect representation of what's going to happen. Like I said, the Barrington Top's expecting about 200 millimetres, and then along the coastline north of Gosford, at least 100 millimetres right up towards Port Macquarie and Kempsey. In fact, about up towards Nambucca Heads, the rainfall will be in those triple figure numbers, with up to about 200 millimetres expected around the Foster area. That is pretty much exactly what I'm expecting in terms of rainfall. From the thunderstorms across the eastern parts of New South Wales, it's a lot more difficult to tell, considering it is going to be from thunderstorms, but depending on the severity of them, tomorrow afternoon we could be seeing 60 or 70 millimetres as peak rainfall accumulations from the right thunderstorms, and they are going to be widespread as well. Plenty of thunderstorms expected. A lot of them are going to be severe as well. It's going to be a gnarly outbreak tomorrow night, so you definitely do have some good hopes of rainfall, especially around the Captain's Flat area, and then further north up towards Tamworth, Armidale and Glen Innes as well. There is going to be the good chance of some rainfall, and then Thursday, like I said, into the southeast of Queensland, some really healthy thunderstorms expected down there. If I've left your location hanging for a forecast, please let me know in the comment section down below. I'd be more than happy to help you out with a proper one in the comments. And then heading further north into the central and the far northern Queensland area, you can see 7-day rainfall accumulations, nothing to write home about at all, kind of below the 25 millimetre mark throughout the entirety of the northern areas of Queensland. And even the 14-day rainfall accumulations, again, absolutely nothing to write home about, especially around the Mackay and Rockhampton area. And I'm getting quite a lot of comments about, oh, you always skip over the Mackay or the Hamilton Island or the Whitsundays area. Well, the reason I do that is because there's really not a lot going over there right now. There's not a lot going on. It's just typical Queensland weather up there. A bit breezy, a couple of showers expected on a couple of days on the forecast. It's warm, it's tropical, and it's feeling nice over there, the weather. So there's no need to cover it in what is essentially a severe weather update for the entirety of Australia. So that's why I do skip over those areas, but I will try to include them in a little bit more of these forecast updates. I do feel like that's only right, considering a significant portion of my viewers are there. So hello to all of you, and I do apologise for not proper coverage in previous updates. Anyways, enough waffle about what coverage makes it to the CyclonesOZ channel. Let's talk about the far north Queensland situation. We do have some thunderstorms expected tonight and tomorrow night as well, some of which could be severe across the Atherton tableland. So let's take a look at them on the forecast right now. This afternoon and evening, a good outbreak of thunderstorms expected to develop over the Ravenshoe and Atherton area from about 4 or 5 p.m. These thunderstorms do have the chance to go severe pretty early on as well into development, with a risk of some heavy rainfall, which could lead to torrential downpours actually around the Atherton and Mareeba area. The Axis convective models are typically very, very accurate, almost scarily accurate with what rainfall they predict and whereabouts it ends up falling across the far northern areas of Queensland. It is fine-tuned for far north Queensland, which is just fantastic to see, because normally, historically, the reliability rating for the forecasts up there is about 20 or 30%, but with the Axis convective forecast model, it's up to about 70% now, which is great to see. And you can see Atherton expecting a couple of thunderstorms adjacent to it. Well, I would bet money that Atherton is going to receive a couple of thunderstorms later on this afternoon and evening, and you can probably already see it now on the cloud cover situation here. In fact, it doesn't look like anything's going to materialise, but you can already start to see a bit of cloud now starting to build around or south of the Atherton area down towards Ravenshoe, and a couple of good clouds also now moving into the Wudgel area here, bringing a few showers. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what actually does materialise here tonight, especially considering the forecast models are predicting some, not widespread, but certainly some intermittent tropical downpours, which could be quite intense at times. They'll be moving inland pretty steadily. In fact, they'll be pretty slow moving throughout the course of today. They're really not expected to move at all. So if they do get themselves jammed over a location, you can expect some pretty heavy falls, up to about 70 or 80 millimetres there. But again, they will probably be fewer and further between, enough to where they're not actually going to cause significant problems tonight. And then as that sea breeze moves through, it looks like those thunderstorms are going to build further inland as well. Good thunderstorms also expected north of the Mount Isa and Julia Creek area, up towards Gregory and Burgtown as well in the northern areas of Western Queensland. Interesting stuff indeed. Pushing the forecast forward to tomorrow afternoon, doesn't look like too much in the way of significant thunderstorms is expected. A good line of thunderstorms expected around the Mount Isa area, down in inland towards McKinley as well. Some good thunderstorms possible there, and also some good downpours also here and there across the Cape York Peninsula too. But apart from that, nothing else to write home about across the far northern areas of Queensland, and that will also basically do it for a proper thunderstorm forecast as well. A good outbreak expected Thursday and Friday nights, but then it looks like it calms down on the weekend. You can see those thunderstorms tending to rainfall at times north of the Cape York Peninsula up to around sort of Moomba, Arakan and Weipa, and those thunderstorms as well pretty much keeping themselves out of the Cape York Peninsula throughout Saturday and Sunday. They do return in the Atherton Tablelands on Monday and Tuesday, and a couple of showers possible extending through Wednesday, and then the forecast just a little bit too murky as we head out towards Australia Day and beyond into the end of January. Now, I was talking about that tropical rainfall coming through in yesterday's forecast updates after Australia Day, sort of between the 26th and the 30th for the Cape York Peninsula, so it'll be interesting to see what the forecast has to say about it tomorrow, because it is still on the rainfall forecast. Actually, you can see some moderate falls possible from about the 26th onwards for the Cape York Peninsula and the Cassowary Coast as well, especially up into the Daintree rainforest. Some good rainfall also possible there. That has stuck around since yesterday's forecast. If it's going to stick around, it does look like it actually will, considering there's good model congruency now. The other forecast models now calling for it, so we will keep an eye on it, but it does look like between the 25th and the 30th of January, you guys up in far North Queensland might be in for a bit of tropical rainfall. I'm giving it maybe a 30% chance of it happening and a 70% chance of it not happening, but the chances of it are rising every day, and with every consistent forecast run, we will likely see a chance of that rainfall being upped substantially. Alright, now I know a lot of you guys are just itching to find out what's happening with this tropical cyclone. Well, I'm very pleased to say I can give you a reasonably accurate forecast today. It's certainly going to be worth a watch, so let's head over towards Western Australia and the Northern Territory now and talk about what is happening. Now, we're starting to see a low pressure system develop here north of Exmouth, offshore from Western Australia. It's a very, very broad low pressure system, and it's bringing plenty of showers and thunderstorms into the West Australia's Pilbara coastline between Exmouth across to Port Hedland, especially around the Karratha and Roebourne area right now. Some good thunderstorms currently piping up. Some heavy falls being reported for a couple of locations over the past 24 hours, with up to 75 millimeters also expected throughout the course of today as well. So we'll keep a close eye on how the rainfall does materialize over the coming couple of days, but we're very interested to see how this low pressure system steadily wraps itself up. What I'm expecting is this low pressure system to grow separately here, or wrap around a much broader kind of more sort of a tropical gyroscope, which is going to be located in the upper atmosphere over the West Australian mainland here. And what this means here is this low pressure system is going to get slingshotted over towards the more Kimberley side of things offshore from Broome, where it will then begin to develop and mature there. The axis is also fond of that forecast there, with this low pressure system slowly developing, in fact not really developing until about this weekend, and then being slungshot over to the sort of Kimberley and the Broome area, where we will likely see this low pressure system then begin its development and its start to life probably on about Sunday or Monday offshore from Derby and Broome, offshore from the Kimberley coastline up in this part of Western Australia. The Eastern Wave still not really fond of that situation here, calling for it to develop much closer towards the Gascoyne region, even offshore from Exmouth. It looks like this tropical cyclone will then begin its life over there, and the axis kind of a bit of a mix of the GFS and the Eastern Wave forecast model. But if it came down to the Eastern Wave from the GFS forecast to a tropical cyclone in the close range, I've got to hand it to the GFS forecast 9 times out of 10. It is just a much more reliable forecast model. And the forecast that it has spat out today, I cannot fault it at all. It's reliable. It takes into account everything that's happening in the atmosphere and thermodynamically with this system. So we are going to be using the GFS forecast here. Again, things can change. This is just one forecast solution, and it is important that we do take this with a very heavy pinch of salt, again, considering it is about a week away still. But we will likely see this tropical cyclone begin development on Saturday offshore from the Kimberley coastline, wrapping itself up on Sunday and then becoming a tropical cyclone late Sunday night into Monday morning. And regardless of what forecast model you follow, it is likely to become a tropical cyclone by the start of next week. Every forecast model is suggesting that at this time. They're just a little bit unsure of where it is expected to be. This will then begin rapid intensification, getting down to about Category 3 severe tropical cyclone status by early Tuesday morning offshore from Derby, north of Broome. In fact, it is going to be a really slow moving system by the looks of things. It then takes a track very similar to Tropical Cyclone Veronica, much closer to the coastline than Tropical Cyclone Veronica, but through Wednesday it moves towards Broome, making a crossing very close to the Broome coastline on late Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, then skimming the coastline as a Category 2 or 3 strength tropical cyclone before making landfall around Wallal Downs north of Marble Bar here, skimming across Port Hedland, and then rapidly weakening through the 24th and the 25th of January, just in time for Australia Day celebration, as it looks like it dissipates over the Panawanaga area inland from Exmouth. Always managed to butcher the location name there, and then moving inland into the Gascoyne and bringing some much needed rainfall there. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what this system does here. In terms of town impacts, there is absolutely no need to worry at this time. However, if you do live in Broome or Derby, I would start expecting some heavy rainfall to be coming through sometime next weekend, or this coming weekend rather, from about Sunday onwards, especially through Monday and Tuesday. Start expecting some heavy rainfall to build in the area there. So if you're in a flood-prone area, then make sure you are preparing for some flooding. And also over the coming couple of days as well, along the Pilbara coastline, also start to expect some flash flooding from the heavy falls that are going to be materialising from the thunderstorms adjacent to this tropical low as it does begin development. The Axis forecast model also has a semi-reliable situation here, at least on the forecast. You can see the tropical low developing through Saturday and Sunday, actually becoming a fully fledged tropical cyclone by the looks of things late Sunday night into very early Monday morning, and then really beginning it to start to life and rapid intensification through Monday. And then, yeah, like I said, going through rapid intensification on Tuesday, offshore from the Pilbara coastline and the Gascoyne coastline. This again is a very plausible forecast here, but I think the Axis does get a little bit carried away with just how strong it makes this tropical cyclone and how intense it does keep it for quite a while. This is definitely at Category 4 strength severe tropical cyclone status here, well offshore from Western Australia, and whilst it is plausible, it isn't overly common that we see this powerful, or this degree of powerful tropical cyclones offshore from Exmouth or even south of Exmouth this time, and then this tropical cyclone does begin weakening as it heads for the southwestern corners of Western Australia, but it looks like it will, just following this trend here, completely weaken off before it becomes any problem to Western Australia at all. Again, there are some huge variables in the forecast that still need to be ironed out, exactly where this system forms or where this low pressure system does travel. My personal gut feeling right now is that this tropical cyclone is going to form somewhere here just offshore from Broome and then begin tracking down the West Australian coastline, probably reaching peak intensity around the Barrow Island area, and if it does make a landfall somewhere between Exmouth and Karratha, it's probably about a Category 2 or 3 strength tropical cyclone. It could get a lot stronger than that, but I think it's just going to have too much land interaction to really get up towards Category 4 or 5 strength severe tropical cyclone status. That is a mix between all of the major forecast models at this time. I do still think that the GFS is going to be the one that prevails here in terms of the correct situation, but I just don't like how long it keeps itself stalling offshore from Broome. I think that is just a little bit too much of an unreliable or kind of a bit of an uncertain factor in the forecast right now. Normally the GFS does keep those slow-moving tropical cyclones a thing on the forecast when it doesn't really know what to make of it, or there's just too much uncertainty with the systems at this time. So it really could go either way at this time, whether this system forms completely offshore from Western Australia, becomes no threat to land, is just a beautiful system to track, or if it forms really close to the coastline. If it does do that, then it's going to be a threat to multiple major population centres along the WA coastline, and it's also probably going to cause billions of dollars in losses to the iron ore industry across Western Australia as well. Unfortunately, that's how it often works in this time of the year across Western Australia. When you get a tropical low, tropical cyclone, it can shut the ports down for days, and especially considering the forecast might be suggesting that this is a slow-moving and quite a powerful system, that is a concern indeed. We'll keep a very close eye on this system. It isn't an exact set in stone at this time, but we've got much more certainty than we did in yesterday's forecast, so I do hope that the forecast here has helped West Australian residents. Again, do not panic if you live between Exmouth and Derby. Like I said, Broome and Derby is definitely start to expect some heavy falls later on this weekend and into very early next week. Up to about 200 or 300 millimetres of tropical rainfall is possible, but do not panic. Severe tropical cyclone impacts are not set in stone at this time, and again, they're not overly likely at this time as well. They're possible, but they're not overly likely. It is certainly time to be on watch, but certainly not on time to be in panic mode at this time. Begin your preparations now, but do not panic. Any questions or comments, please do let me know in the comment section down below. There'll be dedicated video updates on this system as the days go on. I'm expecting to release a dedicated video update on this one tomorrow afternoon as well. So again, make sure you are subscribed to this. We're going to be going all 9 miles on the coverage here on the CyclonesOZ channel. Anyways, I thank you so much for watching the video to this point. The support lately has been much appreciated. Again, a special shout out to the channel sponsors. The names are on screen right now. It'd be great to have a couple more members on the list as well. So if you've got the means to, you're the reason why I've got access to all of this fancy software here. And again, it is much appreciated. If you've got the means to, then make sure you do click the join button as well. It is much appreciated, and it is just a small price to pay, but free content is what I'm all about as well. So I'm more than happy for everyone to be enjoying this content free of charge as well. But that is all from me today, and I will catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.